Most people drift through their day assuming their thoughts are just the truth. They hear a voice in their head that says, "You're not good enough," or "This is going to go badly," and they accept it as fact. But that voice isn't a prophet, it's a habit. Your mind isn't some divine narrator, it's just echoing patterns you've repeated 1,000 times. The Stoics understood that your brain isn't fixed, it's flexible. It becomes what you train it to become. And if you let it operate on autopilot, it will choose the path of least resistance, fear, insecurity, ego. But the moment you realize you're not the voice, you're the one listening, you take back control. You stop being a passenger, you become the driver. This is where real transformation begins, not by silencing every negative thought, but by questioning them, not with emotion, but with precision. Is this useful? Is it true? Is it helping me grow? When you ask better questions, your mind starts offering better answers. The person who rewires their thinking rewires their life. And that doesn't happen through willpower alone. It happens by choosing not to accept every thought as law. The Stoics didn't worship their minds, they trained them. Once you start training that inner voice, the next challenge shows up in real time, when the world blindsides you with something you never scheduled. A snide comment from a co-worker, a passive-aggressive text, a driver cutting you off. Each of these moments slams a fist on your nervous system. Most people lunge straight into reaction, letting adrenaline and ego pilot the next sentence, the next gesture, the next regret. The Stoics warned that instant obedience to impulse is slavery, so they practiced installing a micro-gap right there, a deliberate pause long enough to let reason sit in the driver's seat. That pause doesn't need to be dramatic. It can be one slow breath, the brush of fingertip against thumb, a silent question whispered inside. What outcome do I actually want? In that breath, you reclaim agency. You see that the insult is just sound, the traffic delay just time, neither possessing the power to bruise your character unless you hand it over. When you respond instead of react, you choose your tone, your timing, even whether you want to engage at all. Over days, this tiny discipline rewires neural pathways. Cortisol spikes shrink, frontal lobe clarity expands, and a mind that once lit fires now carries water. Practice the pause with trivial annoyances first. Spilled coffee, slow Wi-Fi. So when a real storm hits, the habit is already baked into your nervous system. Master that gap, and you don't just avoid unnecessary pain. You start shaping events instead of serving them, steering life where you intend to go. Building this kind of composure isn't something that happens overnight. It's trained like a soldier prepares for battle. The Stoics didn't just speak about discipline. They drilled it into their character through relentless repetition. They journaled, not for inspiration, but for inspection. They wrote to spot the gaps in their thinking, to trace the roots of their emotional outbursts, and to hold themselves accountable in ways that most people today run from. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, didn't need a motivational quote. He needed brutal honesty in his private reflections. He used solitude as his mirror, carving clarity out of chaos. If you want real change, you need to approach your mind like a craftsman, daily sharpening, smoothing, correcting. And that starts by making the habit of reflection a non-negotiable. You don't wait until you feel inspired to check yourself. You sit down whether you want to or not, and ask the questions most people avoid. Where did I act out of ego today? What emotion hijacked my behavior? Did I live according to what I value, or what was easy? The more consistently you review your mental performance, the less reactive and more intentional you become. This kind of inner audit isn't about shame, it's strategy. You're not just thinking about life, you're rehearsing how to live it with clarity, strength, and control. That's not self-help fluff. That's how warriors of the mind are built. One reflection, one correction, one day at a time. But reflection alone isn't enough. If you want to rewire your mindset for strength, you need to step into discomfort on purpose. The Stoics understood that growth only happens under resistance, so they deliberately introduced friction into their lives, not to suffer, but to sharpen. Seneca would practice sleeping on the floor, eating basic food, or exposing himself to the cold, not out of masochism, but to prove that he could endure less and still be himself. Today's world makes comfort the highest priority, but comfort is a liar. It tells you you're safe when really you're just stagnant. Growth lives outside of comfort zones. That means doing things that stretch you, not because they're dramatic, but because they build mental armor. It could be as simple as waking up earlier than usual, having the difficult conversation you've been avoiding, skipping the dopamine hit from your phone, or facing a fear head-on. Each act of discomfort rewires your nervous system. It trains your brain to stop interpreting challenge as danger and start seeing it as opportunity. The more you do this, the less power the outside world has over your peace. You're no longer fragile, waiting for life to be easy. You're forged in adversity by choice. And when you've practiced being uncomfortable on your own terms, the storms that break most people barely move you. Because you've built a foundation under fire, not by avoiding resistance, but by stepping directly into it. Stepping into discomfort also exposes a hidden truth. Emotions themselves are just weather systems, not commandments from the gods. Most of us treat feelings like final verdicts. If anxiety flares, we assume disaster is imminent. If anger spikes, we assume an attack must be answered. The Stoics flipped that script. They treated every surge of emotion as a data point, a blinking indicator light on the dashboard, nothing more. Imagine your mind as mission control. When panic sirens go off, a Stoic doesn't smash buttons. He studies the gauges. Why is this alarm sounding? What belief is powering it? Is the danger real, or is it an oversensitive sensor? That shift from drama to diagnosis changes everything. It means fear can become fuel for preparation. Envy can highlight dormant potential. Anger can signal violated values that need clearer boundaries. You stop drowning in feelings and start reading them like coded messages. To train this, begin labeling emotions the moment they hit. Don't say, "I'm furious." Say, "There's a spike of anger. What's its source?" This tiny linguistic tweak buys space for analysis over impulse. Then trace the emotion to its underlying thought. "I think I'm being disrespected." Challenge that thought. Is that objectively true? Does reacting protect my integrity or just my ego? The more you interrogate emotions, the faster the brain learns that they are signals, not shackles. That rewiring lets you ride the waves instead of being dragged under. In time, your inner climate becomes calmer because the storms still roll in, but you've learned to read the forecast and navigate, not capsize. Left unchallenged, your mind will replay the same stale soundtrack day after day. Ugly self-talk, worst-case rehearsals, cheap justifications. Those phrases burrow tunnels in your neural circuitry, and each repetition deepens the rut. The Stoics refused to let that happen. They rewrote the script line by line. The process starts when you catch a toxic sentence slithering through. "I always mess this up. No one respects me. This is hopeless." And you refuse to let it skate by unexamined. You drag it into the light and perform a kind of linguistic judo. First, you question its accuracy. always, no one, hopeless. Words that broad are almost never true. Then you replace defeatist absolutes with precise, empowering language. I misstepped today, but I'm learning. Respect is earned, so here's how I'll earn it. The situation is challenging, not doomed. Write the new line down, say it aloud, visualize it in action. You're not lying to yourself. You're choosing a frame that pushes you forward instead of pinning you down. Done consistently, this swap rewires pathways so negativity has to work harder to get a signal through. And because the brain prizes efficiency, it eventually stops transmitting the old garbage and defaults to the upgraded narrative. That's how inner dialogue shifts from saboteur to strategist. One sentence re-engineered, endlessly repeated, until clarity and confidence replace the static. At the root of most anxiety isn't chaos. It's the desperate, exhausting attempt to control what was never yours to command. Outcomes, people's opinions, the timing of life. The Stoics mastered peace not by taming the world, but by letting go of their illusion of dominion over it. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when you understand the line between what's up to you and what isn't. And most of what eats away at you, the delays, the rejections, the misunderstandings, falls squarely outside that line. What remains within it? Your attitude, your response, your standards. When you shift your mental focus away from outcomes and back to effort, something powerful happens. The noise fades. You no longer chase applause or fear silence. You stop obsessing over what they'll think and start focusing on whether you're proud of how you handled it. That shift doesn't make life easier, but it makes you lighter. You don't drag expectations like chains. You move cleanly, clearly, with full control over the only thing that was ever truly yours, your will. Letting go isn't giving up. It's aiming higher, channeling energy into the actions that build your character instead of trying to puppeteer the universe. And the irony, once you detach from needing control, you actually gain it over yourself, where it always mattered most. Your mind is constantly under attack, but not from dramatic events. It's under attack from distraction, noise, and junk information disguised as entertainment. The Stoics would have treated the modern world like a battlefield for the brain. They understood that what you allow in through your eyes and ears eventually becomes what you think, say, and do. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the soul takes on the color of its thoughts. So what happens when your thoughts are shaped by drama, outrage, and endless scrolling? You lose your center. You become reactive, scattered, and uncertain, not because of who you are, but because of what you're feeding yourself. That's why guarding your mental environment is one of the most overlooked mindset hacks. Be ruthless about your inputs. Cut down your social media usage. Avoid people who constantly complain or gossip. Turn down the noise and turn up the signal. Books that sharpen you, silence that grounds you, and routines that calm your system. This isn't about being closed off. It's about being selective. Just like you wouldn't eat rotten food, you shouldn't consume toxic thoughts. Protecting your peace starts by filtering what gets access to your attention, because what you focus on grows, and if you're not careful, it grows into something that owns you. The moment the external noise is muted, an even subtler challenge appears. Your own moods start lobbying for control. One morning, motivation is sky high, and you crush your to-do list. The next, you wake up tired, and every worthwhile habit feels negotiable. Stoicism breaks that cycle by replacing feelings with principles as the decision maker. Think of a guiding value as software that overrides emotional glitches. Pick one: discipline, courage, humility, justice, and make it the lens, for the next 7 days. When the alarm rings and comfort whispers, stay in bed. Ask whether discipline would agree. When a co-worker provokes you, consult justice instead of anger. Each time you act through the chosen value, you cast a vote for the person you want to become, and your brain wires that identity a little deeper. The beauty is that feelings eventually fall in line. Pride follows discipline, calm follows courage. But you can't wait for the emotion first. You act your way into the state you seek. Keep a simple tally in a notebook. How many choices today honored the value? How many didn't? No shame, just data. Over a week, the numbers reveal patterns, and over months, the patterns harden into character. When values run the show, life gets simpler. Fewer debates, clearer priorities, steadier progress, regardless of how the weather inside your head happens to look at 7 a.m. Growth doesn't cement itself in one dazzling breakthrough. It anchors through the quiet decision to show up again tomorrow and the day after that, until the practice feels as automatic as breathing. Neuroscience calls it plasticity. The Stoics called it habit. But the principle is identical. Your brain rewires by frequency, not by intensity. One flawless workout, one perfectly calm response, or one pristine day of discipline is encouraging, but it's only a spark. Sparks fade unless they find tinder. So plant a small, non-negotiable ritual at the bookends of every day. 5 minutes of dawn journaling to set intent. A cold splash of water before coffee. A brief review at night asking, where did I act from virtue? Where did I fold to impulse? Make the ritual too simple to skip, even when life is a storm. Miss a day. Restart without drama. The restart itself is part of the wiring. Fail spectacularly. Document the lesson, then re-enter the arena wiser. Over weeks, the action that once felt forced becomes natural. Over months, it feels necessary. Over years, it is indistinguishable from who you are. That's the final Stoic hack. Persistence beats perfection. When repetition forges identity, Stoicism stops being a philosophy you reference and becomes the operating system running silently beneath every thought, every choice, every step forward. Everything we've explored is not about quick fixes or magic formulas. Stoicism isn't a philosophy you study once and then tuck away like an old book. It's a lifelong journey of shaping your mind and character with daily intention. Each mindset hack builds on the last. Taking control of your thoughts leads to mastering your reactions. Training through discomfort strengthens your resilience. Filtering inputs clears mental clutter. And living by values grounds your identity beyond fleeting emotions. When these pieces come together, they create a mental fortress where peace isn't something you chase, but something you carry with you no matter what life throws your way. This process isn't always glamorous. It asks you to face your own weaknesses honestly, to sit with discomfort instead of running, to choose the harder right over the easier wrong again and again. But the payoff is real. You move from being at the mercy of your emotions and circumstances to becoming the author of your own story. You stop drifting like a leaf in the wind and start steering with steady hands toward the life you want. The storms still come, but you meet them with clarity and strength instead of panic and despair. Remember, none of this happens by accident. Your brain rewires itself through the small choices you make consistently over time. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's the daily rituals, the moment-by-moment decisions to act with discipline, courage, and wisdom that compound into true transformation. That's how the Stoics became legendary, not through sudden enlightenment, but through relentless practice. Now, it's your turn. Start where you are. Pick one mindset hack from this video and commit to practicing it daily for a week. Journal your progress. Notice how your thoughts and reactions shift, and build from there. Share your journey in the comments. What's working? What's challenging you? If you want more guidance on living a Stoic life, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a mindset boost. Remember, the path to mastery is walked one step at a time, one breath at a time. Start walking today and watch how your life begins to change.